All right, so the big news that everyone is clamoring for is a different piece of news that came out immigration-wise, but I'm just going to focus on the main one that just happened. It came out a few moments ago, is the new proclamation by President Trump, the new executive order about non-immigrant visas. These are people who with temporary work type visas who want to come here, and the restrictive nature of things that are going to be happening for the U.S. or people coming to the United States. So let's start reading into that, and then questions please post and I'll go back and read those questions. So to start, this proclamation is called the Proclamation Suspending Entry of Aliens Who Present a Risk in the U.S. Labor Market Following the Outbreak the coronavirus outbreak. So the reason for this, the reason why they're writing this is because the president is saying unemployment rate is high, and so we can't have foreign people coming and taking U.S. jobs. Now, the politics of it, you have different sides of whether this is actually true or not, the claims that he makes, it doesn't matter because he has the power to do these kind of things. So first of all, there was a previous proclamation, one that banned people with immigrant visas from coming into the United States. And immigrant visas are green cards, but not green cards. They're people who go to the U.S. Embassy, do an interview to get a green card, get a visa stamp in their passport, and then come to the United States. Until they enter the United States physically at the port of entry, they don't get green cards. So those people, if they had the immigrant visa and didn't fall within the exceptions of the previous proclamation, cannot enter the United States and not considered green card holders. So that's one thing he's mentioning here. And he's saying we had put a time limit of 60 days on that, but we're going to extend it, and it's going to go until the end of the year. So this immigrant visa travel ban is not going to stop at 60 days. It's going to end at the very end of 2020. It could be extended, could be made shorter if they want to, but right now they're thinking it's going to go until the end of the year. That's the major part of the proclamation, the previous one, that's being continued here. So now let's move on to the non-immigrant visas. These are visas where someone's coming temporarily for working in this context, and they're saying certain categories, the H-1B, H-2B, the J visa, and the L visa, these are all different types of work visas. These are going to be subject to this ban along with their spouses and children, their dependents. And that's what we're going to look at here. And the president has said this proclamation will affect those people until December 31st, maybe longer, maybe shorter, but that's how it's looking for right now. So we talked about the immigrant visa, the people who who have done green card interviews or have to do green card interviews, they're banned for now unless they fall within the exceptions. But here, non-immigrant visa holders are suspended. Now, initially, the people that this will apply to are the following: one, people who were H-1B or H-2B visa holders, their family; two, J-1 visa holders, as interns, trainees, teachers, camp counselors, au pairs, or summer travel work program, and any other alien or the following to join people who are family members. Now, there are some J visas that are scholars, so there may be exceptions to that. And then the L visa, intra-company transfer visas, so that's that. So who are the people that could get subject to this? They have to be outside the United States at this time. So if you have an L1 visa, you have an H-1B visa, and you're physically in the United States, this won't apply to you. It says scope of suspension and limitation on entry. The suspension and limitation on entry pursuant to Section 2 above of this proclamation shall only apply to alien who is outside of the United States on the effective date. So if you're outside and you don't have the visa, so if you have the visa already, it doesn't apply to you, and you don't have an official travel document or other type of visa. So if you're outside the U.S., you haven't done your visa interview, had your visa yet, or have some other travel document that can make you here, this applies to you. So if you're already, in working United States, have a visa, this doesn't apply to you, and it won't. So secondly, who are the people that have, an exception to this? Well, it doesn't apply to green card holders. So if you're a green card holder, this does not apply to you. So you don't have to worry about that. Secondly, alien who is a spouse or child. Usually what they would do in the past when he did these travel bans is that if you're a spouse or a child of a U.S. citizen or green card holder, it's okay. Not here. Here it's just U.S. citizens. So if you get one of these visas, but your parents are green card holders, you don't have an exception. It's only a spouse and children of U.S. citizens. And then third, people who are essential to the U.S. food supply chain. So if you're coming in, a lot of these maybe farm workers or something, I think that's what they're going for. Fourth, if entry would be in the national interest of the United States as determined by the Secretary of State, Secretary of Homeland Security, or their designee. So if you have a really special condition to come here, you have to argue with and hopefully try to get it approved. The consular officers will do the review of this, so maybe if you're coming to a land border, CBP could do it as well. So there's these kind of things that happen. There's also other things, if it's critical to defense, law enforcement, diplomacy, national security, they may make exceptions to this kind of stuff. So you have to be mindful. And one thing they note is if an alien who circumvents the application of this proclamation through fraud, willful misrepresentation of a material fact, or illegal entry shall be a priority for removal by the Department of Homeland Security. And then it goes on to a lot of stuff about trying to crack down on people who have criminal history, try to crack down on people whose cases are not approvable, and there's all lots of stuff. So it shows they're increasing the enforcement of immigration laws pursuant to this order right here. And something to be careful of is if you are going to maybe use a tourist visa to come here and do change of status, because this is really for people who are applying for a visa. But if you're in the United States, let's say a student, F1 student, and you get H-1B, you could still do change of status. But they're saying maybe if you come here with a misrepresentation with a tourist visa, for example, to enter and then do change of status, they could consider that material misrepresentation and put you in removal. That will be a priority for them. So got to be careful about this stuff. It's a very troublesome kind of thing. And again, what I want to reiterate that you might not know, this is again for people who are getting the visa from overseas and coming here, not people who are already here, because they're an exception to this rule, an exemption, so they could do change of status. But this is going to be a hell of a problem for people who were chosen in the H-1B lottery this year. What bad luck. You finally chose the H-1B, you pay the fee, and all of a sudden they ban you. There's going to be lawsuits of this. We'll see what happens with it. They're going to at least want their money back, the people who paid to go in that program. And so this proclamation goes into effect June 24th. The immigrant visa stuff was already in play. This non-immigrant stuff goes in June 24th. Today is what, June 22nd, I believe. Let me double check what day it is. It is June 22nd. So you have 2 days, I would say, get the visa, come. But anyways, the embassies have been closed, so they haven't been issuing visas. It doesn't look like they'll be issuing visas for another year. So the first 6 months of the year are done, another 6 months to go. Hopefully by that time things will get better. They have a term in there for the government to every 60 days review it and make updates. We'll see, we'll see what happens. The election's coming in November. Even if the president does change, the president doesn't actually change if it's voted out until next year, I think in January. So these could continue to end of the year one way or another, unless there's a change of heart or a reason to change that kind of stuff. We'll see. It's a really troublesome situation. A lot of people's lives are upended, and so we'll see how we're going to deal with all this as it comes up.